The Flora Wonder Blog. Greenhouse 12. Greenhouse 12 is a propagation house, and it contains our winter grass of deciduous plants as well as various coniferous attempts. The hodgepodge ranges from maples to magnolias, from Chamaecyparis to calocedrus. The heater is set at 55 degrees Fahrenheit, although many days the temperature will exceed that. If it becomes too hot inside, in excess of 90 degrees Fahrenheit, we open up the house. Otherwise, we would be forcing new growth on the scion wood before its connection with the rootstock has been established. So hot, but not too hot. At the beginning of March, Greenhouse 12 contains primarily sticks, pots, and media soil, and there's really nothing fun to see. Now at the end of March, I walk through the house daily, and for the past 34 years as well, I become giddy with the prospects of many choice trees and shrubs to grow for future sales. One learns, though, not to become too effusive, for swollen buds and emerging scion leaves might simply be the result of warmth, and that the graft will ultimately fail. In other words, don't count your propagules until June. Every year we experience smashing success as well as dismal failures. But the results are never consistent from year to year. Usually I don't have a clue as to why a successful crop one year could be followed by a poor take the next. If a propagator is anything but humble, he or she is a fool. There is nothing magical about grafting. You merely slice the scion and rootstock to match their cambiums. Secure the operations with a rubber band or plastic tape, then stand back and hope for the best. Non-plantsmen or non-nurserymen are invariably fascinated with the process, and they view me not as a technician, but as some sort of floral wizard who has mastered the secrets to life. True, it is stimulating to impress the novice with my copulatory prowess, but I never want anyone to view my failures, also known as my dump pile. Back when we supplied thousands of grafts to other wholesale nurseries, an Oregon company ordered 800 of just one item. We grafted 12,000 that winter, just to be sure we could supply his 800. And then we planned to sell or grow on the extras. Unfortunately and mysteriously, this usually reliable crop of Chamaecyparis nucatensis glaucopendula did not perform well, and we could only supply him with 600 grafts. I then had to endure his lecture about how he could only do business with reliable sources. Sorry for just 600 out of 800, but realized that I was more unhappy about it than he was, for I made no profit from the 50% effort. By the way, in 2009 he placed no order, after consistently ordering in previous years, and has not bought a plant since. I didn't bother to lecture him on my cost to have rootstocks produced and ready to fulfill his custom order. Thus, this customer is officially classified as an ex-customer, in case he is still even in business. Okay, let's step inside Greenhouse 12. Something I love to do on cold mornings. The soil is fragrant in the warmth, and also fragrant in the foliage of magnolias, acers, fagus, ginkgos, cornus, etc., even though I can't really identify what smell comes from a particular species. Visually, the predominant color now is green for the majority of the rootstock, but delightfully, nearly every other color is sprinkled throughout with the emergence of the grafts. The variegated leaves of the Cornus cusa summer fun and Cusa ocan are already pleasant. Employees charged with pruning and thinning out of the rootstock have an easy task, whereas with the ginkgos, one must focus carefully on what to prune. Earlier I mentioned to stand back after grafting, but that's hardly the case. The aftercare, the nursing process, is often what determines a good nurseryman from a poor one, and indeed, a profit from a loss. Our gardens and greenhouses contain a large collection of ginkgo cultivars, but this year we narrowed our propagation to only 8 cultivars: jade butterflies, American, Munchkin, Chase Manhattan, Snow Cloud, Spring Grove, Troll, and Weeping Wonder. Notice that there are no variegated selections, as I have finally grown wary of producing revertible plants. At the liner stage, most of our grafts look alike, so the employees must focus not to mix them up. I don't know at what age you could eventually differentiate American from a troll from a spring grove. And if ever mixed up in the propagation house, the best solution would be to throw them all away and probably to eliminate the errant employee as well. I don't have a favorite ginkgo cultivar. I like them all for their fresh green leaves in the spring, deep greens in the summer, and the fantastic autumn yellows. One that is different, though, is Munchkin, with its very small stature and tiny button-sized leaves. It takes us at least 5 years to fill a 1-gallon pot, so it's my least favorite in terms of profitability. I mentioned that we quit propagating variegated cultivars, unless Ginkgo biloba snowcloud can be considered to be variegated. And well, yes, I guess it is. Leaves are also undersized, and are longitudinally marked with faint cream white portions. Some leaves emerge without any green, and they are liable to burn. My experience with this type of variegation is that the longer the plant has been established in the ground, the less likely it is to burn. But I've only grown snowcloud for 2 years so far. Pyrus salicifolia is a species of pear commonly called the willow pear, native to the Middle East. The small fruits are not edible, and the species is grown only for ornamental. I don't know the origin of the species name, unless it is derived from salix, Latin for willow, but the salicifolia is also found with Stachyrus salicifolia, Hebe salicifolia, and others, and refers to long, narrow willow-like leaves. The genus name, Pyrus, is from the Latin pyrus, meaning pear tree. The common word pear is from the Germanic word para, and that from Latin pyra, the plural of pyrum. These words are similar to the Greek apios, which is of Semitic origin meaning fruit, as the verb pra means to beget, to multiply. The word parent is from Latin parentium, meaning father, mother, ancestor, from parere, to bring forth, give birth, produce. In any case, we grow Pyrus salicifolia pendula, a weeping haystack of a tree, notable for silvery foliage. Flowers appear in the spring, and they further add to the dazzling display. Too bad the fruits are small, hard, and astringent, for if they were tasty, every yard would contain a salicifolia pendula. This excellent weeping cultivar received Britain's prestigious award of Garden Merit in 1969. In recent times, I acknowledge that it has apparently fallen from favor, and I don't recall ever seeing it for sale in any American garden center. I don't worry about that, because I'm confident that all the good trees have their due place and purpose. I am most pleased when I can find an obscure species or cultivar and bring it back to the market life. We graft our Acer conspicuum phoenix in winter, and they are not difficult to spot in Greenhouse 12. In summer, the wood is too soft, we find, and also for cultivars of Acer tegmentosum, Davidii, rufinerve, and pectinatum. In Holland, I have visited various nurseries that don't get bothered by soft scionwood, but their greenhouse conditions and their outdoor climate and their propagating brains are much different from mine. I purchased rootstock for our grafting of Fagus sylvatica cultivars in 2 7/8 inch wide by 5 inch deep pots. The grafts spend their first 3 weeks on our hot callus pipe, then return to Greenhouse 12. By the beginning of April, the scions begin to grow, and by the end of April, they have exploded with growth and demand to be potted up. Every year, I wonder why I graft so many, since the potting crew is overwhelmed with shipping and other duties. There is always an April to June period when I wish my crew size would double. Some of the European beech cultivars we produced are Bicolor, Sartini, Elbow Variegata, Marmot Star, Nicole, and Aria pendula, with the latter being grown by the largest number. The first 4 are variegated with various portions and patterns of cream white on green. I really should plant one of each in a row to see which one performs the best. But even that might lead to a dubious conclusion, since my experience with many variegated plants is that no two look identical, and a crop of one cultivar might have some trees more colorful than the others. With some cultivars, there is no such thing as a clone, since every branch used in propagating can potentially result in a different-looking tree. A maple collector once asked me if I had an Acer palmatum kotobuki. My answer was yes and no. My start was 5 scions, of which 3 lived. 7 years later, one is very tall and vigorous, and hardly variegated. One is 1/4 the size of the largest, and the most colorful. And the third is in between the extremes. I only propagate from the smaller, most colorful plant, but not to great success. So is the largest tree kotobuki? Well, yes and no. The label says yes, but I say no. In addition to the golden weeping beech and the 4 variegated selections, we also produce a cautious number of pillar cultivars. Red, obelisk, and dark purple are 2 narrow forms with deep red-purple foliage, while dark gold is a narrow gold tree that performs well, in Oregon anyway, in full sun. I never want to have too many of these fairly common selections, but every year I sell out. But 5 or 6 years from now, they might be going for cheap at the box stores. The trend is that more and more of that once proud and frequently arrogant large companies are dumping their excess at the Lowe's, Home Depots, etc. They screw the general welfare of the nursery industry as they flounder to stay afloat. They drag us all down into the abyss of unprofitability unless we come up with something new and different. Shall I mention particular nursery names? I should, but I won't. While I primarily think of Greenhouse 12 for its contents of deciduous trees and shrubs, there are some conifer grafts basking in the additional heat. Chamaecyparis, thuja, calocedrus, and juniperus all perform better with the extra heat in my experience. Needle conifer grafts such as picea, pinus, abbeys, and cedrus don't need extra heat. And in fact, I think they resent it. Their thermostat is set at 34 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's a huge difference in cost between 34 degrees and 55 degrees. Note the general difference between a needle conifer, which shoots out growth in the cool house, and the Greenhouse 12 stuff that grows by elongation. Understand, I'm not at all that smart about propagating, and I certainly don't recommend that you copy me. All this talk about grafting is just me sharing my experience. Just imagine how well off I would be if I really did know what I was doing. If you are a specialty nursery or boutique garden center wanting the rare and exceptional plants your customers love, register as a wholesale customer on buckholtznursery.com today.